So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths higher topic of histograms, going over what you need to know before going through some past exam questions. Now a copy of the questions that we go through in this video are available for you to download and have an attempt at before watching through this video, and all you need to do is just simply click on the link in the description below. Now before we get started, let's just have a quick rundown about what prior knowledge we need before answering some past exam questions on histograms. Well, the first and obvious one is going to be you need to know how to draw a histogram when you're presented with group data from a table. So for example, if I just take this table out here, we get a set of data. What we need to do is we need to add two extra columns. So one is going to be the class width and the other one is frequency density. And the class width, to work this out, it's always the upper bound, take away the lower bound. So that's the first one's going to be 10, the next one's going to be 5, 5 and 10. Then to work out the frequency density, well, the frequency density formula is the frequency of the data divided by the class width. So for this first one, it's going to be 8 divided by 10. Next one's going to be 15 divided by 5. Then it's going to be 10 divided by 5, and then 11 divided by 10. So that's going to be 1.1, 2, 3, and 0.8. The next thing you need to know is the key properties of a histogram and why and when we use a histogram. Now the key properties of a histogram is that the area of the bar refers to the frequency. So unlike a bar chart where it's the height, here it's the area of each bar that represents the frequency. Also with class widths, that when you're drawing a histogram, you need to make sure that the class widths are different. So you can't have equal intervals, they've got to be different. And also that we can only draw a histogram when we've got group data, and also haven't got access to the raw data as well. So when data is presented to us in group data, then we do our histogram so that we can then work out alternative provisions and estimates of exact values. The next thing we then need to know is to be able to work backwards. So this is when you're given a histogram and you want to go back to the table by working out the frequencies. So for this bit, what we then need to just remember that the frequencies equals the area of the bar. So if I want to know the frequencies of each of these groups, then all I need to do is just do the frequency density multiplied by the class width, and that would equal the frequency. And the next one and the last one that we tend to need to know is how to find frequencies outside a group interval. So as you can see in this data, you can see on the histogram on the screen, is that in the first bar we've got 0 to 10, then 10 to 15, then 15 to 20 and 20 to 30. Now in some cases you might get asked to find, well, what's the number between 5 and 25? So what you then need to do is work out the area of this section here, then work out the area of the complete second bar, then the third bar, then this bit here that we've then got. So I've got to work out the area of all of those four sections if I want to know the estimate of the frequencies between 5 and 25. And if you can do all those, then it puts you in good position to be able to answer all the types of questions that you could get asked in your exam paper. Now a little reminder before we get started working through these questions, that if you want to have an attempt at these questions before we go through the answers, or if you're wanting to do it while watching the video, then all you need to do is simply click on the link in the description. I'll also include the mark scheme attached to it, just in case you're finding alternate ways of finding the answers. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 says, here is some information about ages of babies in a clinic, and we've been asked to draw a histogram. So when completing this data here, you can see we've got 2 additional columns that have been drawn for us nicely, but if they haven't, then you would need to draw those 2 additional columns. Now the first column needs to be your class width, and you can just write CW, you don't have to write class width, and the second one is going to be frequency density, which is the most important one that we need. Now to work out the class widths, all you need to do again is just take away the upper bound by the lower bound, so that's going to be 5, next one's going to be 5, then it's going to be 10, and then it's going to be 30. And then to work out the frequency density, all I've got to do is just divide the frequency by the class width, and I would have my following answers. So 18 divided by 5 is 3.6. 23 divided by 5 is 4.6. Then I've got 1.7, and 21 divided by 30 is 0.7. So then what I then need to plot is go along the x-axis is my class width, so they're the widths of the bars, and then going up, the heights of those bars need to be the frequency densities. So you should end up having something that looks like this. And again, what you want to do is just make sure that you are labeling, not labeling, but checking the heights of each of those bars. So it should be a 6. Oh, I didn't want to do that, so let me just bring that back. And let's just be a little bit more accurate. So these should be 3.6, 4.6, 1.7 and 0.7, and that there for our 4 marks. Moving on to question 2, it says that a histogram is drawn to represent the heights of sample A of women. 3 of the 4 bars are shown. The bar for 170 to 180 is missing, and it says there are 74 women in the sample. Complete the histogram. So for this, what we need to do is we need to work out the frequency for that bar that is missing. And in order to do that, what we need to do is work out the frequencies for each of these 3 bars. So if I just label this as A, B, and C, so the total frequency is 74. So all 4 bars got to have an area of a totaling of 74. So looking at the area of A, well, the height of that bar is 2, and the width of that bar is 5. So it's 2 times 5, which is 10. The area of B is, the height is 3, and the class width is 10. So it's 3 times 10, which is 30. And area C is got a height of 4 and a class width of 5. So that's going to be 20. So if I add all of those up, I get 60. So that means that area D equals 74, take away 60, which is 14. So then I know that the frequency of, let's just write this down. So from this bar, so I've got 170 to 180. The frequency is 14, and the class width is going to be 10. So that means that the frequency density is going to be 14 divided by 10, which is 1.4. So I need to find 1.4, which is 2 blocks up there, and it's going there. And then I just need to join those points up with a ruler to 170. And again, the dimensions of that should be 1.4, and it should be 10 going across. So 1.4 going up and going across 10. So moving on to question 3, it says that a sample of 50 eggs is taken from farm A. The table shows information about masses, the eggs from farm A. And then for the second part, it says that a sample of 50 eggs is taken from farm B. The histogram shows information about their masses. And it says for medium eggs, which weigh between 53 and 63, from farm A sample has more medium eggs than farm B. Using the table and the histogram, estimate how many more you must show you're working out. So we know that medium eggs have a weight between 53 and 63. So if you look at farm A, that's basically going to be from 53 to 63. Well, there's going to be the first 2 frequencies. So for farm A has 8 plus 19, so it's 27 medium eggs. So that's the first one done. So then we need to work out how many farm B has. So for this, we can see that 53 and 63 are split in terms of the first 2 bars. So 53 is going to be here, and it's this area that we're wanting. And 63 is going to be this here, which is going to be this area here. So what I need to do is I need to work out the individual areas of the green and the pink bar. So if I take the green one to begin with, well, the area of that is going to be 2 by 1. So it's going to be 2 times 1, which is 2. And then if I work out the pink area, well, that's going to have a width of 8 because that's going up to 63. And let me just write 53. So 55 to 63 is 8. So it's going to be 8 times the height, which is 2, which equals 16. So farm B has, and it's going to be 2 plus 16, which is 18 medium eggs. So then the difference is going to be, and if we just go back up, it's going to be 27 minus 18, which gives us a final answer of 9. Then moving on to question 4, it says the histogram shows information about the time some students revised for a test. The first bar represents the students who revised for less than 10 minutes. Estimate the number of students who revised less than 45 minutes. So what we need to do first is find 45, which is there. And if I just draw a line going down. And so what we need to do is we need to work out the area of this bar, this bar, this bar, and this little part of the bar for number 4. So if I start by just labeling them A, B, C, and D. Now we recognize that all of them are rectangles. So if we look at the area of A, well, that's got a base of 10 and a height of 0.8. So that's going to be 10 times 0.8, which is 8. Area B has got a class width of 20 and a height of 1.6. So if I do 20 times 1.6, I get an answer of 32. For area C, that's going to be 10 times the height, which is 2.2. So that's going to be 22. And area D, which has got a base of 5 and a height of 2. So that's going to be 10. So then all I then need to do is just add all those numbers up. So I've got 8 plus 32 plus 22 plus 10, and I get an answer of 72. So moving on to question 5, it says the histogram shows the ages in years of members of a chess club. There are 22 members with ages in the range of 40 to 65. Work out the number of members with ages in the range of 25 to 40. So first things first, the one key thing you should be able to spot straight away is that the frequency density column is not labelled at all. So in order to work out frequencies, I need to know what that scale is going to be. And I do that by using the information that's given to me in that first opening part of information. So here, looking at this is our 4th bar. That we know that the frequency is 22. We know the class width, which is 25. So that means that the frequency density is going to be 22 divided by 25, which is 0.88. So the height of this bar is 0.88. Now you can see that 0.88 refers to 11 boxes up. So if I then do 0.88 divided by 11, that gives me an answer of 0.08. So one little box equals 0.08. Now the question is asking me to basically work out the frequency of this 3rd bar here. So looking at this, I know that it's a rectangle. Now I know what the width of that bar is, because that's going to be 40 take away 25, which is 15. And then going up, well, I've got 30 boxes, so it's going to be 30, and each box is 0.08, so it's going to be 30 times 0.808. So here I've got 15 multiplied by 30 lots of 0.08, and if I type that into my calculator, it gives me an answer of 36. Then moving on to question 6, it says the histogram shows the time it takes 270 students to travel to school. Kirsty says 30% of the students take more than 25 minutes to travel to school. Is she correct? Use the histogram to decide. You must show your working out. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to work out how many students from the histogram take more than 25 minutes. So if I represent that on the histogram, so I find 25, more than is going to be the right of that. So I need to work out the area of that pink section and this purple section. So from this, what we can then do is work out this pink section. So that's going to be a class width of 5 and the frequency density is 6. So it's 5 times 6, which is 30. And this purple box is going to be 20 multiplied by 2, which is 40. So the number of students taking more than 25 minutes is going to be 30 plus 40, which is 70 students. Now I need to work out what percentage that is. So it's going to be 70 divided by 270, which is our total, and then I multiply that by 100. So if I type that into my calculator, so 70 divided by 270 multiplied by 100, and that gives me an answer of 25.9%, and that's to 1 decimal place. So Kirsty says that it's around 30%, so I would say, is she correct? No, she is incorrect, as 26% of students take longer than 25 minutes. And there we go. Then moving on to question 7, it says the histogram shows information about the distances 600 people travel to work. And part A says how many people travel more than 20 miles to work. So in other words, what we need to do is work out the area of this fourth bar. So let me just write that down. So we want to work out the area of the fourth bar. So the width of that bar is 40 and the height of the frequency density is 5. So it's going to be 40 times 5, which is 200. It then says for B, 224 of these people travel further to work than I do. Estimate the distance I travel to work. Well, we know that there's 200 people here. And so what I'm wanting to know is where the 24th person falls in this little box. If I just draw a bar again, now I know that the area of that is 24. I know that this starts at 20, but I don't know what the width is. So let's put a little question mark. And I know that the height of the bar is 8. So if I do 24 divided by 8, that equals 3. So that means that the distance must be 3. And 20 take away 3 equals 17. So how long does it take me to get to work? It's going to be 17 minutes. Then moving on to our last question, it says the table shows information about the length of time 180 people are shopping. And the first part is draw a suitable frequency diagram for the data. Now, because we've got group data and we've got frequency data, we're going to be drawing a histogram. So we're not going to draw a bar chart because we've got unequal widths. So the class width for the first one is going to be 90. Then we've got 30. Then we've got 60, and then finally we've got 120. So then working out the frequency density of each of those, well, I'm going to have 18 divided by 90, which is 0.2. Then 66 divided by 30, which is 2.2. Then we've got 1, and we've got 36 divided by 120, which is 0.3. So then drawing this on my histogram, so because I've got to go all the way up to 2.2 as my highest one, I'm going to go up in blocks of 5. So that's going to be 1, that's going to be 2, and that's going to be 3. You could have gone up in double that, but I'm just going to try and keep it simple by going up with those. So my first bar is from 60 to 150. So 60 is here and 150 is there. and that's going up to 0.2, so that's just going to be going up 2 bars like so. The next one's 150 to 180, and that's going up to 2.2. So just double check. So 180. So 180 is there. We're going all the way up to 2.2, which is there. Again, you want to make sure that you're using a ruler for this, trying to be as accurate as possible. Then our next one is 180 to 240, and that is 1. So let's use a different colour. And then our final one is going up to 360, and that's 0.3. And let's use blue again. No, let's go for orange. And so 0.2 all the way up to 360. So I should end up with something that looks like that. It then says calculate an estimate for the average length of time for those people who are shopping over 3 hours. So looking at the data, 3 hours, so if I just write B here, so 3 hours equals 180 minutes. So I'm looking at 60 and 38, so 60 and 36. So I want to work out the average, so I'll just go halfway between that. So 60 plus 36 is 96. 96 divided by 2 is going to give me 48. So then I then need to work out the area of 48 from these 2 bars. Now 48 from this particular bar here, that bar contains 60 people, and this 4th bar contains 36 people. So I know that my median value is going to be in this first bar. So if I take that first bar, now I want that bar there to have 48 people. So I know that the area of this bar here is 48, and I know that the height is 1, but I don't know what the class width is. So the class width there is going to be 48 divided by 1, which is 48. So if I then do 180 plus 48, I'm going to get 228 minutes, and there is my average. Then for part C, it says 2 people are chosen at random from the 180 people. Estimate the probability that both are shopping for less than 2 hours. So to start off, we know that 2 hours equals 120 minutes. So if I go back to my histogram, I mark where 120 is. What I need to do is I need to work out what the area of this little orange bar is going to be. So this little orange bar, remember, starts at 60, and we want it to go up to 120, and we know that the height of that bar is 0.2. So here it's going to be 0.2 times 60, which equals 12. So there are 12 people that are taking less than 120 minutes. So then the probability of the first person is going to be 12 over 180. Then I take the second person, so that's going to be 11, and that's going to be out of 179. And if I type that all into my calculator, so 12 divided by 180 multiplied by 11 over 179, I get an answer of 11 over 2685, or that gives me a decimal answer of 0.000, oh sorry, 0.0 and 4096, and any of those answers would be fine.